Hey everybody, I'm here with Jonathan Ontiveros, who's the founder and creative director of Nobody Games. How's it going today, John?
It's going good. Thank you again for having me here. I'm excited.
No problem. I'm happy to have you. So let's just jump right into it.
Hmm.
Your background, it's full of experience in audio design, with a degree also in audio production. You've also worked multiple jobs in the audio field, audio tech, sound design. How do you think that your background in audio production, audio tech, all that stuff, uh, lends you like a different set of eyes or a different perspective on the video game industry compared to somebody who has more experience in another aspect, maybe like programming, character design, art, something like that.
Well, that's a great question, first off. So yeah, my background in audio productions given me a general perspective, not only for gaming, but for film itself, on how sound could tell its own story. Sound has the ability to evoke emotion, build tension, and then also guide players without them even really realizing it. So it's a really important aspect that's very subtle. So coming from an audio background, I approach game design more with the ear towards the emotional psychological journey of the player. So whether it's the case of like creaking floorboards into the game or kind of having a subtle quiet moment to build up tension for a jump scare, is a lot of stuff that I usually try to prioritize and focus on whenever I'm kind of jumping into any design or storytelling. So I'd probably say that's something that probably has a different perspective than someone who has more of an artistic eye or a programming eye, where they probably see things that generally I wouldn't really see. But that's kind of where I see the difference in the perspective when coming into game design with an audio background.
Cool. No, you're totally right. I actually saw a video online today, uh, where somebody was like, they took a scene from a horror movie and put in like a happy song instead, and it totally changed the whole atmosphere. So you're definitely right. I think sound's a very important part of creating kind of tension or build up or just emotion in general. So I think that's really cool. You're I think one of the first people that have interviewed, or you are the first person I've interviewed that it started in audio and then so that's cool.
I'm
Um,
honored.
you founded Nobody Games in July. Before founding Nobody Games, had you considered establishing a video game studio? And if so, oh well, I guess you had, but how long had you considered establishing a video game studio prior to founding Nobody?
So starting a studio was something that was always on the back of my mind as like a dream job. And while this was going on, I was actively working in Hollywood and doing sound for film and software development out there too. So it was always something that was in the back of my mind. But it just kind of felt like it was a bit what's the word to say? Essentially like during like a time where like the job industry right now was taking a massive decline. It seemed like it was just trying to climb up a massive uphill with the massive layoffs going on, and how oversaturated the market has kind of developed over time. So I found myself, receiving countless rejection emails and being ghosted by multiple companies and going through interviews only to not get the job that I was trying to go for. So it kind of got to a point that it was in an area where I couldn't find opportunities, I wanted to make my own. So it was more encouraging as I was trying to find a job in the industry to really start trying to pursue building or starting up a studio. And then I think it wasn't up until pretty recently when the rise of the indie game revolution, we're seeing volunteer studios open up with, Cave Bear Games and Series Point Games, and seeing that they're a team of volunteer, passionate junior developers who are actively trying to pursue into the industry was the big jump that motivated me the most. And it was at that point where I was like, you know what, I really want to try to pursue this. It's been something that's been on the back of my mind for quite some time. So I felt the time was perfect just to start going into it. So it's always been on my mind, but it wasn't until maybe about like 5 or 6 months ago where I was like, okay, I really think I want to try to do this. And here we are today.
This wasn't a question I had listed, but how's like, I ask everybody about how they founded their studio and how working on their game's been. But as somebody that doesn't come from a background in business, you come from a background in audio, how's the business side of establishing a studio been? What's it been like that with like the logistics and everything in those regards?
That's a good question. So a lot of it has been quite a bit of a learning curve for me. Business was something that was always kind of like I had a general, like a secondary understanding as I was going through school, but it wasn't like my primary focus. Prior to this, I actually helped start up a company with a group of other people, and we built an audio software that's still currently being used in the audio industry. And that was a very early entry point of me kind of shadowing our CEO and kind of what they're doing and being really actively close on the management side. I was able to kind of see uh, typically what the cases are running through a business. But when you're the person who's the front person here trying to run it yourself, it's definitely a bit of a learning curve, especially coming out from an industry that I've been in for about 10 years and kind of getting into the game industry where things are just a little bit different than what I'm familiar with on business side. It's definitely been a learning curve, but I'm very fortunate enough that we have a very positive team and we have a great lead producer on our team that does help out. And she's got a great experience in the animation industry, but kind of being more on the management side of stuff. So it's been really helpful just to have people who, kind of there just to kind of help you out as you're trying to pursue through all the business side of the studio.
Yeah, nice to have a little support system or going on with you. So,
Mm-hmm.
you spoke of your team. Nobody Games is a studio, comprised mostly of volunteer junior developers. Um, what would you say is that team's greatest strength? Going, you know,
I would definitely say our biggest strength is our passion to the team. I'm inspired every day whenever I see updates from everyone on the team showing how their creative workflow and them trying to brainstorm together and develop something. So I feel like we may not have the industry experience under our belts, but what we lack in experience, we make up for from our beliefs in the industry and our desire to grow. So everyone on the team is just driven by the opportunity to showcase their talents and learn along the way. To me, having a group of passionate individuals who truly care about what we're building together far outweighs having someone who's highly experienced but may not have that same exact drive. So there's a lot of passion that goes into it, and with that passion, just builds inspiration. So it's a really positive outcome that we have with the team while we're all still in a learning curve. And any obstacles or challenges we overcome, we always kind of see it more on the other side of once we've accomplished over the obstacles here. So passion, I think, is the strongest thing that we have.
quick side question. This wasn't something I originally had. Speaking of your team, on LinkedIn, whenever you guys have posted about new members or your team, each member's got a little video game mascot.
Mm-hmm.
Does the member pick that, or is that like their favorite video game character? That's something I just thought of. Well, I was thinking of, and I was like, do I put that on the question list? But I'm just gonna ask it anyways.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so when everyone is onboarded onto the team, we always like to ask a little bit about their background and what's their favorite video game characters, and then we use that as our little avatars to introduce everyone, the new teammates, on our LinkedIn. So yeah, they get to choose that, and we've had a couple of people who've chosen the same characters that they like, which is not a big deal. But if that's your favorite character, we like to put that on there as like a little avatar to represent a new teammate on LinkedIn.
Cool. Yeah, I just had to know. I thought that was a cool little
Mm,
part of you guys' LinkedIn presence. But
mm,
since founding Nobody Games in July, the studio, you guys are quick to release a trailer for Shadow Hills Manor, which is described on the post, the description for the video as a first-person psychological horror game.
mm.
How quickly did you and your team decide on the idea for Shadow Hills Manor, as the studio's first project? Was this something you guys are kind of kicking around before even the formal founding of the studio, or were you just quick when the studio was founded? Because it was fairly fast that you guys got that trailer out.
Thank you so much for that. So funny enough, this was actually a game that I have been developing for maybe a little under 2 years now. And the whole idea of when I was first building this game is simply because I wanted to practice implementing sound design for video games. And I couldn't really do that unless I had a game to kind of start putting some stuff in there. So once it first started off as like, all right, let's just make this game really quick and I can add some sounds to it, I had to learn, the user interface of Unreal Engine. I had to learn how to implement certain things before I could get to the stages. So with that process, I decided I was going to take a couple of courses on Udemy, to start just learning how to build a game. And I do come from some of like the biggest things I usually like to make back, when I was doing sound for film, a lot of horror sound design. So I definitely wanted to go down that approach, and I'm a horror game enthusiast myself. So it all just kind of started as just like a side project. But then one day when I made enough progress where I wanted to show it on LinkedIn, I decided to make a little small devlog video to show everyone. And by that next day, I had so many messages of just positive feedback, people saying like, this looks really good, like I would love to help out, if you need any help with this and that. And it slowly just grew from there, and then it came right at the perfect time. As I was saying, like the rise of indie game studios were coming up. It just all kind of clicked at that point. I'm like, you know what, maybe we could try to build this, because if other people see something in this project, then maybe this could be our first official IP, which later became Nobody Games. So it was something that I was working on for a while, and then slowly just brought on a couple people who saw the vision, and then we've expanded from what was at that time maybe three of us to now 11 of us right now. So it's been something we've been working on for a while, but now things are really full speed ahead now that we have our whole crew and we're all in production right now. So bringing out that trailer and getting things ready for a playtest soon. Yeah, we're getting things full steam ahead right now.
Cool. So from Shadow Hills Manor, what kind of atmosphere or sorry, I lost my train of thought. What kind of atmosphere can people expect from the game? Like, do you have anything that you can share about, maybe not just the atmosphere, but the world, or anything about the game, perhaps characters or anything like that? If not, I'm not trying to pry anything out of you.
Yeah, I guess without trying to go in too depth in spoiling any of the stories. I think the players can expect at least a dark, eerie atmosphere that pulls them into a bit of an emotional roller coaster as they progress through the story. From the very beginning, we aim to create an immersive environment that reflects the depth of the narrative. So we wanted to make sure the manor itself kind of had a reasoning for the whole story behind all of it. So I feel like they can expect dark, eerie, mysterious environments while the storytelling kind of reflects on a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And the best part about it is it's going to be quite a bit of player choice base. So depending on your decisions you do in the game will kind of determine what's going to end up being the outcome of it. So I think without trying to say too much about it, I think that's what they could kind of expect is just we're aiming for a very storytelling, trying to get into an emotional roller coaster of the backstory of what's happening into the game, while being in a dark, kind of frightening environment.
So I'm assuming the most of the, if not all of the game takes place in the manor, which is the namesake of the namesake of the game.
I'm gonna just probably say 95% of it.
95.
I think it's a safe
Okay,
safer now.
cool. What pieces, you said yourself that you're a horror enthusiast. What pieces of horror media, if any, have kind of lent themselves to the inspiration behind Shadow Hills Manor?
So I'm a huge fan of indie horror games and also classic horror films. It's something that I've always enjoyed just because I like the aspect of being able to just kind of the best way I could describe it is like how it kind of lives life on the edge. The same way some adrenaline person, when they get like that adrenaline rush when they do a cliff diving or do something, it's kind of just like pushing the limits of what you could do. What I love a lot about horror and when it's done very well is just slowly picking at it to the point that the game is already in the player's mind without them even noticing it. And when you stay at that point, you can really kind of get into a psychological approach of how you want the player to feel. So that's one thing that just really drawn to me whenever I play horror games. I would probably say half our team would agree that they do like horror films. They like to watch people play horror games, but they don't like to play them themselves. But I think a lot of the inspiration just kind of came from that. Also, just playing beyond like the name, just kind of being inspired by horror games itself. Like Silent Hill was a big inspiration for us. Layers of Fear, Amnesia. A lot of them, they kind of dip into that psychological approach where things could be very subtle, but when it's kind of picking at your brain at the right point, it's kind of just drawing you into this fear. So I think that was a lot of the big inspiration behind a lot of horror media that was behind Shadow Hills Manor.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely like the like psychological approach type games, and just me being an enthusiast for a lot of indie horror games itself too.
Gotcha. I love Silent Hill, so I'm definitely excited about your game.
I would
Whenever
say
somebody,
PT was probably the biggest one that I would say has drawn the biggest inspiration that we all agreed on what we want to kind of approach with. But yeah, without trying to spoil what we're trying to really approach, it's just we took a lot of inspiration from stuff like that and just trying to make it into a compelling story with the team of junior developers.
oh, awesome. So a few months ago, you guys partnered with Cave Bear Games for their partner studio program, which is fairly large now. It includes a lot of indie studios, with multiple of which I think I've interviewed the founders of. So, you know, I've never really asked this of somebody in that partner studio program, but in what ways has being in that program helped you as a studio, maybe in terms of growth or working on your own project? Just anyway, how have you seen um, you know, support from that?
It's been absolutely incredible. K Bear Games partner program has a huge impact on our growth. And in fact, through the program, I was actually able to find half of our team. It's filled with a lot of people who are either, if they're already higher up in the industry, are offering a lot of mentorship and guidance and great insight. And it's also filled with a lot of passionate people who just have that same vision where they want to work with the volunteer studio and just try to expand their growth or show what they could do to try to break themselves into the industry itself. So it's been a really good positive feedback on just trying to get great resources from there. Ayla, shout out to Ayla. She does incredible work just kind of managing everything on there. I don't know how she's able to manage all that and also manage K Bear Games too. So just a huge shout out to their whole team. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great resources in it, and that's where I was able to find half of our team, and also be able to get access to a lot of mentors who are willing to help out and volunteer. So now we're very thankful that we have a couple mentors ourselves with Nobody Games, who, anytime we have new people coming on board, at least we have access to a mentor in each department who could kind of help oversee or actually kind of help guide in a lot of ways as we're developing the game. So it's just a great resource for everything. And definitely a lot of the success and us being positioned in the right direction, I owe that to the Discord community. Absolutely.
Awesome. So going forward, what excites you about the future of Nobody and maybe Shadow Hills Manor and everything that you guys are kind of working on?
I think what excites me the most about it is just seeing what our team can end up creating. They always say making a game is fun, but they never say that it's easy. So there's been kind of going back to saying there's been absolutely a lot of obstacles and learning curves of stuff. A lot of challenges along the way, but that's also a lot of stuff that we were really expecting, especially being a junior led studio where half of the idea is that we want to do this so we can all grow and have an experience that's fairly parallel to remote game studios in a professional environment. So I think I'm excited for just us overcoming the challenges. Um, Regardless of however the game gets perceived once we do release it, I think the biggest thing is just that we're passionate about just overcoming the challenges and getting an understanding from A to Z, and being able to grow our skills about it. I think that's the biggest thing I'm excited about for the future. And I'm sure once we're done with this project, we've grown a really great relationship with everyone on our team. And I'm sure right after this, we're going to want to jump into something afterwards. So um, that's all I can really say what I think I imagine about the future, but I'm just really excited to see how we're already overcoming a lot of challenges that maybe a few months back we were really just stuck on, but we're already past that point because we were able to, um, just overcome a lot of the issues and find the best way we could get through all of it. So I'm excited for what we have in the future.
This wasn't something I had listed, but I just thought of while you were speaking, you know, what are some maybe challenges that you have been experiencing personally, or maybe not you guys, but uh, indie game studios as such as yourself, smaller ones, are experiencing that I guess you could shed light on. Starting out, you guys are really fresh. You're working on your first IP, like you said. What are some hurdles that you've kind of had to overcome?
Um, so maybe a couple of them that I could think of. So first and foremost, us already just kind of being in a junior environment where that either means that some of us are either still in college or finishing up college, or just people like us just trying to break into the industry that's never really worked in a AAA studio or an indie game studio. A lot of us have experience doing game jams, and it's one thing where you spend like a week or weekend with the team to develop something. So thinking more long term and trying to set up sprints and having things be in a reasonable way to us to dedicate our time was one of the first challenges because I think everything was more just like things were kind of jumbled around, but it took a while to get things where we were actually focused and dedicated to our sprints to get things done at a proper deadline. We completely understand that it's all volunteer, so I completely understand when life priorities always got to come first. So we never like to say, hey, there's like a deadline for this and you need to have it done by this. So we completely understand the flexibility of the whole environment. So I think one of the challenges first was just trying to set up something that was realistic to have sprint systems and deadlines that felt like they were pretty reasonable that we can accomplish. And then I would also probably say, and this is more just more internal, just trying to get more of the terminology when, especially when one department's trying to communicate with the other. It's really important to be able to understand how the terminologies could be a little bit different when one department, when a certain term for this is something different when it comes to audio or for the art team. So being able to assure that you have that bridge communication where one side of the department understands what we're trying to go for is very important. And it was just like little small things like that, but it was more just like, oh, okay, so this is how you kind of work. Okay, well, let's adapt together to it. So I wouldn't say there were really problems. It was more just you're bringing a group of people all in one household and you're trying to figure out the common ground of what's the best workflow for everyone. Um, so just really studying the analytics of how everything's working, I think is one advice I would really say. Pay attention to where things are moving, where things are working, where they're not working, how you can improvement. The earlier you catch that on, I think the better case, especially when you're too far into production where you realize something's not working out. You don't want to have to go all the way back to the drawing board. So study the analytics early on and figure out what works and what doesn't work and adapt to that.
So it's a lot of just kind of figuring it out as you kind of go along.
It was a
Uh,
bit, yeah, it was a bit of that, and then a mixture of whenever there was any questions about stuff. We're fortunate that we could reach out to some mentors or anyone from the Cave Bear Partner Program who may have a good insight on that, and just take notes from there, and then just try to adapt it into our environment. Yeah, a lot of it is just trying to adapt and make sure that the workflow is going steady in that case.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you answering all those questions about the studio. Moving
Yeah.
forward in this interview, I'm going to ask some more kind of fun questions from here forward. So my first thing here, before we get started, is what is your favorite game of all time?
Ooh, okay. My favorite game of all time. This one is always really hard for me to answer because I could go through phases where I'm like really excited to play one game over the other. Um, I think my favorite game. First, I'm going to say what my favorite franchise is, and it'll kind of help me dive into it. Diehard Fallout fan. I've loved Fallout since Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas is probably arguably one of my favorite games. Also, right there with Fallout 4, because ironically, Fallout 4 was the one that got me into the whole franchise. Um, I don't even want to say how many hours I put into that game, but I've put in more than I'd like to admit. So I would probably say either New Vegas or Fallout 4 is probably one of my favorite games of all time where I can always keep going back to.
Cool. Like you, Fallout 4 is my first entry into the franchise. I haven't beaten 3, but
Mm-hmm.
I've tried New Vegas and I really like it. So that's cool. Everybody, every time I ask this, they don't get straight to their favorite game most of the time. It's usually of, well, this is what I played most of, or this is what I played recently.
It's so hard to answer because I'll go through a phase where I'm like, I'm in the mood for like a storytelling game, and I can say honorable mentions like Red Dead Redemption 2 is also arguably one of my favorite ones. Last of Us 1 and 2, arguably one of my favorite. It's so hard for me to pinpoint it down, but I think the one that was just the most inspiring, where I was just like, I'm so interested in the entire lore after playing the game, was definitely the Fallout franchise. And I would arguably say that New Vegas or 4 equally my favorite games.
I'm also a huge Last of Us fan. I think that's what finally, like, yeah, this is what makes me want to work in games, was playing The
It
Last
was
of
the
Us.
first video game I remember where I actually shedded a tear.
Really. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
have
it
a
was it
place.
was right around when I started realizing that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I must have lagged. You can go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was right around like the first time I really started paying attention that games could tell or can tell like a compelling story rather than just like a traditional like just do this objective and get the reward. It was right around that when I started realizing that a lot of games are starting to be a bit more cinematic. And I don't want to spoil in case anyone hasn't played it. But yeah, there were just some moments where sheds a little tear. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. There's a couple of moments where I've shed a little tear of joy of it.
Yeah, after I didn't have a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4 until like 2020, I think is when I got a PlayStation 4 during the
Mm.
pandemic. And I played The Last of Us and I beat it. And immediately after, I had to drive to the local game store and pick up The Last of Us 2. And I think after I beat The Last of Us 2, I think I just sat for like 15 minutes in silence,
It
just
sucks.
thinking, I know.
Yeah, it's like, where do you go from here? Now I have to leave
Yeah.
something. Yeah, it's
So,
rough.
moving forward, because I could talk about The Last of Us all day. So
Mm.
we're going to blind rank 5 horror games based on how scary they are.
So wait, what was the question?
So we're gonna blind. Do you know what a blind ranking is?
Is that where you just kind of say something and I'll just randomly give it a rank?
Yeah. So I've got five games. You're not
Okay.
gonna know what the next one is, and
Okay.
you're gonna blind rank them one through five based on how scary they are. They're all horror games. So
Okay.
just give me 1 second. All right. So you ready? I'm
Let's do it.
all right. So your first game, and this isn't again, this isn't how much you like them or what your favorite. This is how scary they are. So
This
your
is
first
scary. Okay.
game is Alien Isolation.
Oh man. I mean, I don't know what else to expect in this ranking, but I almost want to say I was gonna say five. I'm gonna maybe just stay with four right now.
Or okay. So your next one is Silent Hill 2.
Um, I want to respectfully put that one right below Alien Isolation, so maybe three.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant five for a
No,
second.
no, 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 no.
I was gonna say. So after Silent Hill 2, you have got Outlast.
Hmm. All right, I'm just trying to just stick with just the scary of it. I enjoy playing that game, but when I do play games that are with friends, it adds more of a humor.
Mhm.
But I'm just trying to take that out and just think of the overall scare. I'm gonna say
Well, if it wasn't scary to you, you don't have to. I mean, it's still subjective.
two on this one, only because
Two.
like when I play co-op, it kind of adds more humor to the fight, in my opinion.
So hold on. Do you have one as being the least scary and five as being the most scary?
Yeah, that's what I was referring at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you've got Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Um, damn, that was
One
a
or
good one.
five.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna probably. I want to give one of these ones a five. I don't want to be stingy with the five, but I'm gonna put this one at four.
You already used four with Alien
Oh,
Isolation.
that's right. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
use it. All right.
You only got one or five.
Then I think I'm gonna have to put that one at five then.
Five for the most scary.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one I decided to throw in was like it's a horror game, but I think if I had said it in the middle, would have thrown you for a loop. It's it's Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't know if you've ever played that one.
I
Have
have
you never played
not.
that? So Doki
So
Doki
I
Literature
guess by
Club.
default I gotta put one on there.
So do you know? Have you heard of it?
No, I don't think so.
Um, I was making this blind rank with my friends when I was with a group of friends, and I was like, what should I put in for the fifth one? I was like, I was thinking, what should I put in for the fifth one? And one of my friends says Doki Doki Literature Club. So 20 questions. That's a are you familiar with the game 20 questions?
I want to say yeah, but maybe just a quick rundown just to make sure
So
I'm aware.
I've got a character, a video game character here, and you've got 20 questions to guess what that character, who or what that character is.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I'll write them down as you ask so that we can keep track of what you ask or how many questions you've got. So you're free to crack away to guess the character.
Okay. Is there any rules? Like, is there any like obvious questions I probably shouldn't?
Um, they always have to be yes or no questions.
Okay.
It can't be like a name the video game franchise this character's from.
Okay.
It has to be a yes or no question, a close-ended question.
Okay. Um, is it a male character?
Um, yes, but like a maybe.
Okay.
It's kind of odd, but we'll just say yes.
Okay. Let's see. Um are they from an action adventure like game? Can I ask that?
An action adventure is part of it, but I don't think it's like the whole thing. It's, if it had a couple of genres, that would be one of them for sure.
Okay. Um, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying not to draw a blank here. Um, are they? No, that's on. Would you consider them young characters?
No.
Okay.
Is that
Um,
do you got Discord on?
it might be my Discord. I apologize about
I
that.
could no, I couldn't tell if it was mine or yours. I was like,
It happens every time I hear someone else's. Okay.
do you
So
mean young like they are like in terms of development, not development, but like if the game released recently or if the character in their world is a
like in
young.
their world, are they like a younger person or they're
No,
older?
I don't
Okay.
believe they're younger.
Okay. Um, is there magic involved with this character?
I don't believe it's magic. No, we're gonna say no.
Okay. Would you say this character is otherworldly?
Otherworldly,
Yeah.
mm, probably give you a little bit more than you sh should get from this, but not otherworldly in the sense like it's fantasy, but otherworldly in the sense that it's inhuman, if that makes sense like that.
How many questions have I asked so far?
You've only asked five. You got 15 more.
Okay. Oh man, it's like playing like Guess Who. Um, I'm really trying to think of like well thought out questions to help like get a process of elimination because my mind is still just I'm not even sure who this character is. Do they have short hair?
I don't think they even have hair. I
Okay,
don't think they have hair.
okay. My mind at the moment is thinking something that's like Baldur's Gate 3 related, but I could be way off. Does this character use I don't know if that's a good one or not. Does this character have a weapon of some sort that they wield?
Believe so. Um, yes, kind of. Sometimes. Sometimes
Sometimes
they have it.
that makes it so much harder. uh, yeah, that's the part where you could kind of cue the 2 hours later type thing. Does the setting take place on Earth?
Yes.
On this Earth, would you say there's any sort of post-apocalyptic feel to it?
Um, element like not fully, but there's a bit of it. Like, some places.
Okay. Would you say this character lives or this takes place in the future?
I don't think it does, but let me look that up. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Okay.
No, it does not take place in the future.
Would you say the game takes place in the past?
Yes, it does take place in the past.
Man, I think what's thrown me off the most is that because if it's not really human, I like my mind is just kind of going to like any like sort of like human like character, but when it's like saying that it's not necessarily human, my mind just can kind of go anywhere. So I'm really that's the thing I'm trying to crack down here.
It's- I could give you a hint, but only if you really want it. Um,
If you have a little one, you don't have to
it's
give me like
like
a comics one.
it's like it it's a it's a it's how can I say this without like giving it away? Um, it started off human. So it's like from human origin, but it's become inhuman, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean that's good. That does help me out, but still keeps things open out there. I'm just gonna kind of talk to myself by just doing process of elimination. So it doesn't seem like it's Fallout because Fallout is future and very post-apocalyptic. Because I was thinking it could be a superhuman, but not in this case. Um, in the past, is it from a game that you would say that came out rather recently?
Mm-mm. I mean, no, we're not. But how far back you talking?
Within the span of 2020 to now, has that game been out within?
I don't think this is weird because I don't want to say too much.
That tells
Mm,
me it might be a franchise that started a while ago.
yeah. Yeah, we'll just go with that.
Would you say the game alters um from our actual history at some point in the game?
Um, yes and no. Yes, and like fictional events transpire, but no, and like it's not like in the grants. It's not like an alternate, like something, very vital to our reality was changed in that. It sticks very close. It's more so smaller events that transpire.
Okay.
So
Is this character from a AAA game or an indie game?
triple A.
Okay. All right. I think I'm starting to get a little bit close to what I think it might be, but then I can also kind of be wrong because also what's throwing me off is that you're saying he might not have hair.
He doesn't have hair.
Are you doesn't have hair?
No, he does not. Not in his current state or whatever. He doesn't have hair.
Okay.
I don't th the character's never known for having had hair. I don't think so. Don't let the way I word that confuse you.
Would you say the game takes place in New York City?
No.
Is this an evil character?
Yes.
Okay. Now my mind, for some reason, is now just thinking Marvel stuff. Now I'm thinking superheroes.
I was
Uh,
when you asked about New York City, I was like, is he on Spider-Man? Is that what he's?
I was actually thinking. Do you have you ever heard of or played the game Prototype?
Oh, I have. Well, I haven't played it, but I've seen footage
Okay.
and gameplay and stuff.
So I was like, yeah, he's like kind of human, but also is like this like creature type thing, and kind of goes around in New York. But that's kind of where my mind was going with that question. Okay. So a villain. I feel like I'm slowly honing in. There's just like some that like I'm doing process of elimination, but based off some of the answers, I'm like, wait, that might not be it then. So it's like really trying to think this through. But I feel like I'm getting closer to something here. Would you say this character still has human like features?
He's like a humanoid, so he's not a human, but he's like, he
Okay.
looks. His body shape is
Like humanoid
humanoid.
shape.
Yeah.
Okay. My brain is just like kind of stuck in this like Marvel universe or anything of like superhero for some reason. And I don't know if that's close or not, but that's just kind of where my brain is just kind of stuck in here. And I'm trying to get another clue that could kind of break or get that bit of a closer answer. Um, and you said I'm not allowed to ask like if it's from a specific studio or so to say, right? Like I can't say like,
I mean,
oh, is it from this game?
you can say you can be if you say okay, right. Let's say I was talking about Little Big Planet or something, right? I'm not talking about Little Big Planet, but I'm just using it as an example. If you said, is it from Little Big Planet or is it from the Little Big Planet series? I could say yes, but if you said outright, what video game is this in? I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a yes or no question, the Little Big Planet one.
Okay. Is it from the Marvel universe?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I should have said, is it also from the DC universe? Hold on.
It's not here, I'll just throw that in. It's not
Okay.
superhero. I'll just not superhero stuff.
This is a good one. There's just so many things that I still think it could be, but I can't dial it down.
How about this, man? I'll give you five extra. I'll let you get to 25 because I
That's if
want
I
to.
even think of 25, and I'm trying to think of like some well thought out ones here. What am I at? My question, what,
You're at
7?
19. You're
Oh,
at
at
like
19.
19. Yeah.
Is this character seen as a god?
No.
No. This is kind of more on the graphics of how this character is. Would you say this character is more realistic graphics? I want to ask more about it to kind of put in perspective. But
Uh,
if you're to look at this character, you would say like, oh, the graphics of this, wherever they're from, is more of like realistic graphics.
So you're asking about like the game's graphic art style. Like if it's like
I
you're
guess
are you asking like if it looks like something like Red Dead 2 and that's like, that's realistic or like something like Psychonauts where it's just like card. So
I guess
you're
that's
at
what I'm trying to get out of the question is like if it's like more like a Nintendo cartoon character versus something that's a little
no,
more realistic.
I think it's a more realistic depiction of more realistic graphics.
Okay. What is that already? 21 questions?
That's 20. Like I said, I'll give you five more so you
Okay,
can get to 20. But
I'm gonna try at least maybe do like maybe like one or two more. And if I don't get anywhere close to that, I'll probably have to give up. But let me see if I can try to think of something that gets me closer to it. Was this character pushed into evil?
pushed into evil, like they started off as a good guy and then they became evil.
Like, yeah, would you say like this person may have potentially started off as someone that was decent, but then was kind of pushed into whatever made this
Uh,
character evil?
I think this guy was always evil.
Always evil.
Um, let me double check. But I'm pretty sure this guy was always a rotten egg. Um, no, I think he was always a bad guy.
Assuming for as long as we've known who this character was, we've just
I,
proceed him.
yeah, I don't think that you'd think of this character and go, "Oh, that's a good guy gone bad." You'd go,
Okay.
"That's yeah."
In this world with this character, no, hold on. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I could word that one. Every time I'm trying to ask something, I'm just trying to see how much of a stretch I could put into the question. um, just to recap at the question earlier, you said they do or they don't use magic.
No, no magic.
Okay.
At least if you think of this guy, he's not going to come up with magic. If there is magic involved, it's some lore thing that I don't know about. But you're not going to like base level. If you're thinking of this guy at the top of your head, you're not going to
Hmm.
think of magic.
Uh,
Y- You know what? I can give you a hint about the magic thing if you
okay.
want.
All
Okay,
right.
so think magic's like fantasy, like I don't know, like Lord of the Rings or The Witcher or whatever, right? This has fantasy. It's like fantastical, not in that way, but more so like um tech with tech wise, if that makes sense. But it's also not like a sci-fi, so it's like I don't know, like secret government, you know, stuff, secret government
Okay.
research or something like that. I think
Okay.
so, since you're past the 20 questions, you're free to get a hint every now and
That
then.
helps out a little bit. Um, okay. Here, I'll tell you what. I'll try to at least get maybe one more question and try to get another solid guess into it, and then I'll probably say I give up. But that kind of helped me a little bit because just kind of going back, my mind first earlier in the questions, I was thinking Lord of the Rings or Witcher, kind of in that area. Um, and then yeah, I started thinking. Obviously, I was kind of thinking Wolfenstein at one point, but trying to get a little bit more, not too far back. Does this character use guns as weapons?
There, he uses a particular gun as a weapon sometimes, but that's about it.
This is like the rough thing, especially when it comes from like a video game enthusiast, and especially if you've played a lot of games, like your mind could kind of go like so many random places. I'm literally going from like literally thinking like Men in Black to like Mortal Kombat type stuff as far as like are these characters that like kind of like have humanoid but still look different, still part of Earth.
I'm not trying to backseat drive, but I think another question about genre could really narrow this down for you, like tenfold.
Is this character from a horror genre?
Yes.
Okay. Um okay, hold on. I think I might okay, I think I might have something, and I'm trying to remember his name. Okay, I'm gonna just start telling you where I think I'm concluding this now. I
Okay.
am thinking something potentially Resident Evil.
Okay.
thinking that it is. I'm trying to remember the big guy's name. I think they called him Mr. X, if I remember. If you know who I'm talking about, he's kind of like the big guy.
Mm.
I'm, I'm gonna just bite the bullet. I'm saying I'm going with that, and I'm just thinking because it's something a little bit back, not too far back. Assuming because the virus they were once human, but now kind of creature like. But yeah, I think I'm gonna. That's my guess.
You're so close. It
Is
wasn't
the
Mr.
head guy?
X. It was Nemesis.
Oh my god.
Like, you're so close.
Okay,
You're
I'm
there.
pretty happy I got that close at least.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we end here?
Um, yeah, we are, and I guess it's depending on when this episode will get released, but we are preparing to announce a public play test for Shadow Hills Manor. We're actively looking for anyone who is very into indie horror games. We're looking for anyone who's primarily our target audience. So anyone who's watching this, if you enjoy playing horror games, storytelling, mystery, puzzle, anything in that realm, feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Because yeah, we're getting ready to get to the point. We just had an internal test, so now we're trying to get out to get it to more public tests to get more of the data and get more analytics of what works. So we have that. Let me see if I had something else going here. And also this is just more just like a message for anyone who's just trying to get into the industry. If you're, obviously like someone like me who is trying to get into this industry, but just feels like it's such a rough time trying to get into it. These resources such as K Bears, Discord, Amir's Game, Discord. There's so many I could think of, but there's a lot of great resources out there. And the best thing about this industry is that everyone is very friendly. There's never such thing as a bad question to anyone you want to try to reach out to. So for anyone who's out there who's struggling or trying to get into the industry, I strongly encourage to reach out to these people. They're the friendliest people and who's also inspired me to get further into this industry. So just know that you're not alone in this journey. And yeah, reach out. We love to help out people, just like how people help me out too. And I try to pass that on as well. So those are the two things I like to share.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun with the 20 questions at the end there. Um, I really appreciate having you.
I hope you'll have fun editing that one out.
Yeah. Um, again, really enjoyed having you. Looking forward to Shadow Hills Manor.
Yeah, thank you again, Connor. I appreciate you reaching out to have me on here. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, enjoy editing out the 20 questions there.
I will.
And yeah, thank you again.